13 black actors Hollywood won't cast anymore. They were once everywhere. Oscar winners, action heroes, the faces that filled our screens every single week. Then, one by one, they slipped away. But the reasons might shock you. One served real prison time and clawed his way back. One walked away at the absolute peak, turning down a fortune. And one ended his own career in the most tragic way imaginable, behind bars for life. Not every story here is what the rumors claim. Some chose to leave, some were pushed, and one can never return. Stay until the end, because the truth is far more complicated than the headlines. Drop a comment and subscribe to Hidden Celebrity Stories, where the real story always comes first. Wesley Snipes. Once, a single name on a poster was enough to sell out a theater, and his was that name. Born July 31st, 1962, in Orlando, Wesley Snipes fused real martial arts training with a screen intensity no rival could copy. Passenger 57, Demolition Man, and the Blade films turned him into a juggernaut, and Blade, which earned beyond $130 million globally in 1998, quietly shattered a ceiling. A black actor anchoring a comic book blockbuster years before that became the norm. Then his world stalled. A 2008 conviction on 3 misdemeanor counts of failing to file federal tax returns sent him to prison for about 28 months, from 2010 to 2013, erasing him from screens during the exact stretch when the industry was remaking itself. Reported clashes on the set of Blade, Trinity hardened the caution around him. Yet the chapter that followed rewrites the easy assumption that he was finished. He came back. The Expendables 3 in 2014, a praised supporting turn in Dolomite Is My Name in 2019, and a reunion with Eddie Murphy in Coming to America in 2021. The work never stopped. It simply changed shape. So his belongs on this list not as a disappearance, but as a survival. Returning at all after surrendering years to a cell is something few actors ever pull off, and he did it without apology. The solo headliner crown may have slipped, but he proved something more durable than stardom, that a career can absorb a genuine collapse and keep breathing. The edge that made audiences lean in never dulled. Chris Tucker. Imagine reaching the very summit of comedy and then, by choice, stepping off it. Born August 31st, 1971, in Atlanta, Chris Tucker exploded through Friday in 1995 and The Fifth Element in 1997, but Rush Hour in 1998, with worldwide earnings past $240 million, made him a global name in a single stroke. His rapport with Jackie Chan became the stuff of legend, and by Rush Hour 2 in 2001, he'd secured a $20 million fee that placed him among the best-paid performers on Earth. The whole industry assumed he'd keep climbing. He refused. After Rush Hour 3 in 2007, he intentionally pulled back, saying he had no wish to be imprisoned forever inside the same frenetic comic mask. He declined offers and turned toward faith and a quieter sense of meaning. The decision carried consequences, since the business waits for no one. Through those years, he also faced steep tax difficulties, reportedly owing millions before settling them, keeping his name in the news for everything but his talent. His return in Silver Linings Playbook in 2012 drew admiration for its restraint, and he appeared again in 2023's Air. But the point cannot be missed. Nobody forced him out. He left of his own accord. He still commands stand-up stages and still accepts the rare film. His chapter isn't about an industry that forgot him. It's about a man who placed his own peace above the endless grind and discovered, as so many do, that when you step out of the light, it rarely pauses to wait for you. Cuba Gooding Jr. Few film lines are quoted as often as the one that made him a star. Born January 2nd, 1968, Cuba Gooding Jr. shouted, "Show me the money!" in 1996's Jerry Maguire and claimed the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor, ascending to Hollywood's summit after already stirring audiences in Boys in the Hood. Surely, it seemed, prestige leads awaited him for decades. His choices wandered instead. Across the 2000s, he signed on to films that failed to land, several bypassing theaters entirely, and he would later concede he'd refused roles that might have altered his fate. A genuine high point arrived with his Emmy-nominated O.J. Simpson in 2016, yet the old surge never rebuilt. Then came the reckoning that redrew his reputation. From 2019 onward, multiple women accused him of unwanted touching, drawing an arrest in New York and a drawn-out legal saga. In April 2022, he pleaded guilty to one misdemeanor count of forcible touching. And that precision matters. A misdemeanor plea, not the graver charges first raised. Even so, the fallout was swift. In a town hyper-aware of public image, elite casting offers thinned, and the leading man footing he once enjoyed never reassembled. He has stayed busy in smaller films and voiced his hope to rebuild. His arc is defined by contrast, from one of his generation's most indelible performances to a career clouded by legal trouble. His ability was never the issue. But in Hollywood, a name can carry as much weight as a resume, and his has proven a heavy thing to lift. Monique. Strip away the headlines, and her story isn't about lost talent at all. It's about a woman who wouldn't yield. Born December 11th, 1967, she had long since earned her place in comedy and television before 2009, when her devastating work in Precious upended everything. The lean-budgeted film took in over $60 million worldwide, and her performance swept the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress alongside a Golden Globe and a BAFTA. The sort of haul that ordinarily unlocks every door. What it unlocked instead was a confrontation. She refused to do extensive unpaid promotion for the film, insisting she shouldn't labor for nothing. That principled line struck against an industry quietly powered by precisely that free work. In the years after, she stated openly that she'd been blacklisted, naming influential names and speaking unflinchingly about pay gaps and how black women are treated in the business. A 2019 lawsuit against Netflix over a far smaller offer than her peers was later settled out of view. For more than a decade, the major roles evaporated. But her story refused to close in silence. She has lately released a Netflix special, mended her rift with director Lee Daniels, and edged back toward weightier projects. What endures is the question buried inside it. In a world ruled by unwritten codes, what is the price of refusing to comply? Monique forfeited those years, not through any lapse in her artistry, but for holding her ground. And her gradual return reads like the slow arrival of justice. Terrence Howard. The gift was never the question, which is exactly what makes his exit so arresting. Born March 11, 1969, Terrence Howard surfaced in the early 2000s as one of his era's most magnetic performers. Hustle and Flow in 2005 brought an Academy Award nomination for Best Actor on a picture grossing past $23 million. He shared the ensemble of Best Picture winner Crash, and he entered the Marvel saga as James Rhodey, Rhodes in Iron Man in 2008. Then arrived the episode that shadowed him for years. For Iron Man 2, Howard has said his fee was slashed, and when the talks failed, Don Cheadle took the part. The affair reshaped how the town regarded him, and a name for hard bargaining left certain studios uneasy. But the claim that Hollywood cast him aside crumbles against the record. He found towering new success as Lucius Lyon, the merciless mogul at the core of Empire, headlining that smash for 6 seasons from 2015 to 2020, a role most performers would covet. That was no exile. It was a second crest. What genuinely ended his screen life was his own choosing. In 2023, he publicly declared he was leaving acting altogether for other pursuits. So his absence is not the story of a shuttered door, but of a man who, after decades of brilliance and tempest both, pulled that door closed with his own hand. For those who followed his full journey, the ending carries an unexpected gravity, a departure on his terms, not the industry's. Brandy Norwood. For anyone who kept a household running in the 1990s, she was woven into daily life. Born February 11, 1979, Brandy Norwood was a sensation. Her 1994 debut moved more than 6 million copies, and The Boy Is Mine, her duet with Monica, held #1 for 13 weeks. She simultaneously anchored Moshe and made history as the first Black Cinderella in the treasured 1997 television film, a role that meant everything to a generation of young girls. The weight of expectation on her was enormous. Then her road darkened. A 2006 car accident took a life. She faced no criminal charges, but civil suits and harsh scrutiny followed, leaving a deep emotional bruise. Meanwhile, a transforming music industry made matching her early dominance nearly impossible. But vanish she did not. She remade herself. She returned to television in The Game, Star, and Queens, revealing a range many hadn't expected. And lately she's turned up in Descendants, The Rise of Red, and the film The Front Room, while circling back to music and the stage. Hers, then, is not a tale of being erased. It's a tale of evolution. From a young woman who ruled the charts to a seasoned artist assembling a deeper, more varied career across decades. In a business that reinvents itself relentlessly and abandons those who can't keep stride, her endurance points to something sturdier than fame ever supplied. It points to the quiet defiance of a performer who simply declined to fade away and kept finding fresh rooms to step into. Tyrese Gibson. He was never content to be a single thing, and that hunger steered his entire path. Born December 30th, 1978, Tyrese Gibson first made his name singing and modeling before proving himself a real actor in Baby Boy in 2001, then anchored himself in the Fast and Furious films, where Roman Pierce kept him inside one of cinema's most lucrative franchises. For a season, the leading man horizon looked wide open. What muddied his standing wasn't scarcity of work, but the clamor encircling it. In 2017, he objected, loudly and emotionally, to a franchise spin-off, his unfiltered posts exposing backstage friction and dropping him into an uneasy glare. Around the same time, a wrenching public custody fight and a run of raw online videos dragged the focus off his performances and onto his private pain. In a trade where image and stability quietly govern hiring, those episodes registered. But accuracy demands the truth. Tyrese has not been locked out. He has kept turning up in the Fast and Furious films, the latest ones included, beside roles in independent projects. What shifted is the perception. No longer the ascendant star, but a settled figure working through a choppier chapter, his life beyond the camera occasionally outshining the work itself. His story poses a question that feels distinctly modern. In an era when the public witnesses everything, how much does the off-screen life dictate the on-screen one? For Tyrese, that boundary has never drawn itself cleanly, and it follows him still. Isaiah Washington. Built on discipline and command, his career pivoted on one irreversible moment. Born August 3, 1963, Isaiah Washington won real esteem through Love Jones and Out of Sight before claiming the role that made him famous. Dr. Preston Burke on Grey's Anatomy, which debuted in 2005 and rapidly became one of the planet's most watched dramas. His turn as the brilliant, emotionally walled-off surgeon set him at the apex of network television. Then 2007 undid it. Amid an on-set dispute, Washington used a homophobic slur, and the crisis deepened when he repeated the word publicly while attempting to explain himself. The recoil was instant and ferocious from audiences and insiders alike. Despite apologies and attempts to mend the harm, ABC declined to renew his contract, lifting him out of one of TV's biggest shows at its very height. From leading man to outcast, the fall was nearly instantaneous. In the years afterward, he spoke frankly about the wreckage. Lost representation, scarce work. He pressed on regardless, taking independent films and regaining visibility on the 100 from 2014 to 2018. But the altitude of Grey's Anatomy never returned, and in 2023, he announced he was retiring from acting. His journey runs deeper than a single controversy. It's a study in consequence and in the long, solitary climb back after a defining error. Of all the accounts here, his shows most vividly how one moment, in a business where reputation and opportunity are fused, can silently reroute everything that comes after, and how rarely the door reopens all the way. Taye Diggs. He came equipped with a rare advantage. He could do everything. Born January 2nd, 1971, Taye Diggs first earned acclaim on Broadway, starring in Rent and helping usher in a new chapter of musical theater before sliding effortlessly into film. In the late 1990s, he joined the cultural conversation with How Stella Got Her Groove back in 1998 and The Best Man in 1999, cherished for portraying sharp, charismatic, emotionally textured men. Television then broadened his reach through Private Practice, the Grey's Anatomy spin-off from 2007 to 2013, carrying him into millions of homes weekly. Then his footing in Hollywood began to move, and, crucially, not through scandal. It was merely the industry's ordinary current. The big studio leads grew scarcer, so he adapted, gliding among television, theater, and independent films. Empire, All-American, and The Best Man. The final chapters in 2022 kept him in motion, even at a smaller scale. His prominent marriage to actress Idina Menzel and their 2014 divorce kept him visible, though it never wounded his career. This is the truth his story is owed. Taye Diggs didn't decline, and the business didn't discard him. He evolved, circling back to his stage origins and welcoming every variety of role within reach. His path uncovers a gentler face of show business. That at times the spotlight doesn't dim, it simply relocates. For a man who launched on the stage, that adaptability may be the most fitting destination of all, and the reason he remains hard at work today, decades on. Jussie Smollett. He stood squarely at the threshold of major fame, and a single night rerouted his life. Born June 21st, 1982, Jussie Smollett rose as Jamal Lyon on Empire, the musician at the center of a series that pulled more than 17 million viewers at its height. He wasn't merely acting. He recorded original music and gathered a following far beyond the screen. For a few years, nothing appeared able to halt him. In early 2019, Smollett reported to Chicago police that he'd been the victim of a hate crime. Sympathy surged at first, but after a thorough investigation, authorities alleged the event had been staged, and the narrative curdled into one of the most discussed scandals in recent memory. In December 2021, he was convicted on several counts of filing a false police report and sentenced to jail time. Precision is vital here. In November 2024, the Illinois Supreme Court overturned that conviction, but purely on procedural grounds, holding he should not have faced a second prosecution after an earlier deal with prosecutors. The special prosecutor pointedly emphasized the ruling had nothing to do with innocence. It concerned legal process, not the underlying facts. By that point, the professional toll was already exacted. Empire wrote his character out of its final season, and the major studios held him at arm's length. Since then, he has moved toward independent work behind the camera, while his name stays tethered to the controversy. His story is a stark lesson in how swiftly public trust, and the livelihood resting on it, can give way entirely. Stacey Dash. In the mid-1990s, a long and luminous career seemed assured. Born January 20th, 1966, Stacey Dash grew instantly familiar as Diane in Clueless in 1995, a film that earned over $56 million and became a generation's touchstone. She reprised the part in the Clueless series and worked consistently into the early 2000s, though the biggest leading roles always stayed just out of reach. Years later, her life swerved in a direction nobody anticipated. Not through cinema, but through politics. In 2014, she joined Fox News as a contributor, and her outspoken conservative commentary, including a contentious challenge to Black History Month, set off blistering debate. The backlash, especially within the Black community, ran deep. In 2016, Fox News suspended her after controversial remarks and let her contract expire. By then, her public identity had been wholly rewritten. Where viewers once knew an actress, they now saw a lightning rod for political controversy. She later admitted regretting some of her words, describing herself as having performed a role rather than being true to herself. And she tried to retreat, even briefly launching a 2018 congressional bid before backing out. For all those efforts, Hollywood stayed wary, and her acting never recovered its earlier drive. Her story is a vivid lesson in how rapidly a public image can be remade, and how punishing the rebuild becomes once controversy seizes the stage. She held the talent and the openings. But in this business, what you do before the camera isn't the whole story. How the world sees you once it stops rolling can decide the rest. Orlando Brown. His beginning brimmed with promise, and his story became one of the most sorrowful cautionary tales in family entertainment. Born December 4th, 1987, Orlando Brown was among Disney Channel's brightest young stars, adored as Eddie Thomas on That's So Raven from 2003 to 2007. That sitcom ran 4 seasons as one of Disney's most popular, and his comic instincts and warmth made him stand out. A young talent who could act, sing, and rap, seemingly destined to mature into adult stardom. Instead, once the show wrapped, his road bent hard. Over the years, he accumulated a series of legal troubles, including arrests connected to substance possession and other charges, and those episodes steadily eclipsed all he'd achieved. At the center sat addiction, which he later discussed candidly, owning how profoundly it had damaged his life and work. In a trade that prizes dependability above nearly all else, that air of unpredictability sent the opportunities fleeing. But his is not solely a story of descent. It's a story of the fight to return. He has taken roles in independent projects and spoken honestly about his desire to change. And in recent years, he has centered his efforts on sobriety and a steadier life, with reports of meaningful progress. What gives his journey its ache is the gap between the buoyant young performer who once made millions laugh and the brutal road that came after. The crossing from child star to adult actor has broken so many, and it nearly broke him too. Yet his story stays unfinished, and the chance at redemption has not closed. Michael Jace. This is the lone story here that offers no second act, no reinvention, no way back, because it didn't merely end a career. It ended a life and tore a family apart. For years, Michael Jace built a quiet, respected place in film and television. Born in 1962, he appeared in Forrest Gump in 1994, and won wider notice as Officer Julian Lowe on the acclaimed series The Shield from 2002 to 2008, where his depiction of a conflicted, deeply human officer lent the show real gravity. He was no headliner, but he was steady and trusted, with a career that felt secure. Then, in 2014, all of it halted. Jace was arrested and charged with the murder of his wife, April Jace. The case stunned the public and the industry alike. According to the court proceedings, the shooting unfolded at their Los Angeles home, with their children present. In 2016, he was convicted of second-degree murder and sentenced to 40 years to life in prison. The consequence was complete and immediate, unlike every other account here. Careers that dimmed, paused, or transformed. This one simply ended. He has remained outside public life ever since, serving his sentence, and the work he left behind is now seen through a permanently altered lens. This is not a story of Hollywood turning away. It's a story of consequences reaching far past any industry into the deepest grief a family can bear. The chasm between the officer he once portrayed and the act he committed cannot be eased. A final, sobering proof that no measure of fame can shield anyone from accountability. 13 actors, 13 very different roads. Some were sidelined by scandal, some by a single mistake, and some simply chose to walk away while the cameras were still rolling. But it raises a question worth arguing over. When a talented actor disappears from the screen, is it really Hollywood turning its back? Or is it the choices, the controversies, and the timing that quietly decide who stays and who fades? And does the industry ever truly forgive? There are no easy answers, only honest ones. Tell me in the comments which story surprised you the most, and whether you think any of them deserve a real comeback. And if you want the truth behind the fame, subscribe to Hidden Celebrity Stories, where the real story always comes first.